The important findings are there. The state government implemented online tendering during the year 2008 by government e-procurement system developed by the NIC. However, government has not signed any service level agreement with NIC for development and implementation of the JEPNEC. In absence of any agreement, no action could be initiated, although NIC could not complete the implementation of modules such as vendor management, intent management, contract management, and catalog management. These details are given in para 2.1 and 2.2. We have seen the names of bidders did not match with the names of holders of digital signature certificate, and the same DSC had been mapped to multiple bidders, which indicated that the name of the bidder had not been validated at the time of registration of DSCs. Due to absence of validation control, verification by the department user in the system, the DSC used by the bidders did not have the essential attribute of non-disclaimer, which means that it is not what valid at the time of entry. A bidder could potentially disown any bids or inputs submitted into the system on the grounds of that the DSC was not registered in the name of the bidder or was mapped to multiple bidders in the system. These details are then para 3.1.1 and others. In regarding para 3.3.2, we have noticed that in case of 25,109 bidders, the PAN number was not unique, meaning that the same PAN number was also found mapped to the other bidders ranging from 2 to 212 times in the database. Due to lack of validation controls to prevent duplicate PAN mapped to multiple bidders, 29 bidders had submitted 2 to 4 bids in the same tender during the test check. Coming to the other chapter 4, para 4.2, we noticed that 168 out of the 486 tenders, fewer days were allowed than the prescribed for bid submission ranging between 1 to 9 days. There were no reason for giving fewer days to bidders for submission of bids. The business rule specifying the minimum period of submission of bids had not been mapped into system in the form of application control to enforce the minimum period of submission of bid based on tender value. The whole state detail is also given in the para. In next para, para 4.3, the business rule for following two cover process for tender having value more than 50 lakh had not been mapped as an application control in the e-procurement system. The workflow permitted the department user to opt for single cover process even when tender value was more than 50 lakh. Coming to next chapter, chapter 5, para 5.1, 1.1, 228 bids relating to 224 tenders had been submitted after bid closing time due to either absence of application control to prevent submission of bids after tender closing time or due to manual intervention at the back end of the system. The details are there in various tables in the report. Next 5.1.2 para, a total of 14 bids pertaining to 12 tenders had been recorded as created before the tender documents sale start date. Further, 2192 bids had bid update time recorded as before the bid creation time. And further, 6,26,115 bids had bid uploaded time recorded as the bid as before the bid creation time. This indicated inadequate validation control to enforce correct recording of time and enforcement of chronological sequencing of user actions in the system. Hence, there was absence of time stamping integrated in the system. Next para is, which is chapter 6.1.2. I am giving some highlights only. The detail you can also see in those annexures, details are there. There were 342 bids pertaining to 120 tenders in the system, which was recorded as not having been decrypted. Out of these 120 tenders, 48 tenders had either been revoked, retendered or cancelled. However, these were no explanation as to why the bids in the remaining 72 tenders were recorded as not having been decrypted. Out of these bids, which were recorded as not decrypted, contracts had been awarded in the case of 5 bids. This discrepancy indicated that material risk that these bids pertaining to 72 tenders had been entered into system through manual intervention at the back end. Coming to chapter 7, the business process such as tender evaluation, both technical and financial, negotiation with vendors, and award of contract are still being carried out manually instead of through the e-procurement system. As a result, the objective of the eliminating human interface for this key process has not been achieved. In the absence of application control for this process carried out manually, audit noticed instances where tender inviting authorities had manually increased the bid amounts submitted by the bidders after downloading the financial bill of quantities from the e-procurement portal and excluded the L1 bidder from the consideration at the time of award of contract. So this all given in page 40 in para 7.1.1. In chapter 8, as per the system requirement specification, every user is required to log in to the e-procurement portal using their username, password, and digital signature for carrying out different activities. Therefore, the activities of users like tender creation, tender publishing, bid creation and submission by bidder, tender opening, and description and decryption and downloading the bids by department users should have corresponding user log record in this session login table. Audit observed that the above activities were carried out by the users with a log record about the logins were not available in the user login session table. These missing logs indicate a material risk of modification, deletion of records through manual intervention at the back end of the system and hence raise doubts on the integrity of the database and procurement process. So we have just summarized that report. Detail always you can see in the report. Next report, which I will discuss on the report of CAG, Comptroller and Auditor General of India on Information Technology Audit of Crime and Criminal Tracking Network System in Government of Orissa for the year ended March 2023. The important findings are there. First is project management. After the contract for digitization and migration of past records into core application software database system integrator, Mrs. NIIT Technology Private Limited was to digitize old past case records of 10 years from 2001 to 2010 as well as open cases, ongoing investigation trial even if the case had been registered prior to 2001. However, State Crime Record Bureau SCRB decided December 2012 to only digitize old and past records for the period from January 2003 to December 2012, which was not in compliance with the contractual terms. This is there in the para 2.4.1. Data migration from the earlier used systems such as Crime and Criminal Information System CCIS and Common Integrated Police Application CIPA was incomplete and incorrect due to absence of digitization of key documents and material errors in digitization of data from physical records. Hence, CCTNS could not be utilized for retrieval of data as intended for the period prior to 2013. This is given in para 2.4.6. Coming to chapter 3, user management. There were deficiencies in the controls for user access management as the system permitted filing of charge sheets by personnel not authorized to do so. There were also deficiencies implementing essential controls such as mapping of police stations with the corresponding reporting authorities, which adversely impacted effective supervision of the status of criminal cases through the system and resulted in continued use of offline manual process for this purpose. These details are given in para 3.1 and 3.3 and more details are there in page 19, 20, 21. Application controls to ensure identification of accused criminals as well as complainants had not been implemented, resulting in multiple IDs for the accused criminals and complainants in the system. This adversely impacted the main objective of the system to keep track of all cases associated with the accused criminal and registered by the same complainant and resulting data inconsistencies. These are given in page 23 and page 26-28, para 3.4. Regarding another chapter, chapter 4, registration, there was significant control failure in enforcing chronological sequencing and logical sequencing of actions, resulting in untenable and illogical recording of events, such as registration of FIR prior to registration of general diary entries and recording of arrests and seizures prior to recording of FIRs. These instances indicate a material risk of interventions at the back end of the database to modify data in the system without authorization. This is in para 4.2.2. The next is para 4.3 and 4.4, which I will say. Business rules had not been mapped correctly into the system through implementation of necessary application control, which resulted in discrepancies such as recording of 5566 missing complaints of children below 18 years without registration of FIRs, although it was prerequisite and mandatory. Despite having prevention system for registration and maintenance, 9642 non-cognizable cases had not been recorded by the 29 police stations in CCTNS. Both details are there in this chapter. Next chapter is chapter 5 on investigation. Due to absence of clear executive instructions to mandate the utilization of the system and dispense with the maintenance of manual records, the case diary module had not been utilized by the police station. CCTNS had not been utilized as intended for the generation of charge sheets, due to which significant manual interventions were being made by the police stations. Moreover, the disclosure of identity on the citizen portal of the women victims and juvenile offenders categorized as sensitive has been found in 1631 cases involving 405 police stations. These details are given in chapter 5, para 5.1, 5.2 and 5.9. In chapter 6, prosecution, CCTNS was not used for generation of charge sheets and MIS reports, due to which system could not facilitate effective supervision and monitoring of status of cases. For instance, out of 368 cases reported as closed, 190 cases had been incorrectly reported as closed in the report, even though the finalized charge sheet in these cases had actually not been forwarded to the concerned court. In addition, only 1808 court disposal memos had been recorded against 7.44 lakh registered FIRs. These details are there in paragraph 6.1 and 6.2. Coming to the next chapter, chapter 7, system security. There were deficiencies in the system process related to synchronization of data between local offline servers and central online server of CCTNS. Further, the system lacked the functionality to generate alerts, MIS, exception reports when the synchronization process led to mismatches between the number of records as well as actual contents, value of data fields in the developed database. This is there chapter 1 with the focus on chapter 7.1, page 58. And last chapter, which is chapter 8, monitoring supervision. We have seen the structure consisting of 4 committees were created to review progress in implementation of CCTNS and provide policy directions. However, due to shortfall ranging from 69 to 98% in conducting meeting by these committees, the intended objective could not be achieved. In addition, due to lack of training, the staff were not having the working knowledge to operate the system. These details are given para 8.1 and 8.2. Thank you. Thank you very much.